Don't stream, don't go, just go on her. Take it away from here. It should be on her. Hey, go on her.
$720 cartons of 12
No, start now.
720 cartons of 12 caliber Red Star cartridges, with each carton containing 25 cartridges, amounting to a total of 18,000 cartridges. Additionally, 250 packs of live cartridges of black pellets, with each packet containing 10 cartridges, totaling 2,500 cartridges of the same caliber, were discovered. Among the items recovered from the suspects were an ECOWAS ID card belonging to Eric, 125,000 CFA francs and 245,100 naira, as well as 60 Ghana cedis. In order to address environmental degradation in the Apapa area of Lagos State, the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, LASTMA, in collaboration with the Nigerian Ports Authority, NPA, initiated a 7-day cleanup operation. The General Manager of LASTMA, Bolaji Oreagba, says the cleanup efforts target illegal shanties, kiosks, containerized shops, abandoned trucks, among others. The intervention began after notices were served to the owners of unauthorized structures and vehicles in Apapa and its surroundings. According to him, the cleanup operation started over the weekend with the demolition of numerous illegal structures such as shanties, kiosks, and containerized shops. Additionally, abandoned trucks were towed away and illegal garages were dismantled. These areas had become breeding grounds for miscreants who extorted money from innocent motorists and disrupted the smooth flow of traffic. The General Manager of Security for NPA, Mohammed Khalil, noted that the cleanup operation was long overdue, adding that NPA had been conducting radio jingles and awareness campaigns to educate the public about the necessity of the cleanup exercise. During the start of the cleanup operation, officials from various government agencies were present, including policemen from the Lagos State Ports Command, OP MESA, and the Federal Road Safety Corps. Away from that, Lagos has emerged as the most expensive city to live in Nigeria, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. In June, the inflation rate for Lagos State rose to 25.7%, surpassing the national average of 22.7%, which indicates a significant increase in the prices of goods and services within Lagos compared to the previous year. The report further revealed that on a monthly basis, Lagos experienced the highest inflation rate of 2.7% in June, indicating a more rapid pace of price changes compared to other states. Previously, the city had enjoyed lower fuel prices due to its proximity to ports and major depots, which reduced transportation costs associated with petrol distribution. However, with the petrol subsidy removal, Lagosians now face similar fuel prices as the rest of Nigeria, witnessing a significant jump from 180 naira per litre to approximately 490 naira per litre. Before June, the most expensive states to reside in within Nigeria were Ondo, with inflation rates of 25.8%, Rivers 25.7%, and Kogi 25%. However, these states experienced lower inflation rates in June due to the trailing effects of the earlier spikes. Ondo recorded an inflation rate of 25.4%, Kogi had 25.2%, and Rivers stood at 24.1%. Away from Nigeria, the World Bank has granted additional financing of $4.5 million from International Development Association, IDA, to support Gambia to improve the quality and use of essential health services and strengthen the national system for public health preparedness. This funding comes as an addition to the previously approved $50 million for the Gambia Essential Health Services Strengthening Project. In addition, the World Bank Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Program granted $4.33 million in June 2023. The allocated funds will be used for key initiatives like the construction of a national food and drug quality control laboratory, capacity building to prevent and detect health emergencies, and the establishment of an electronic case-based surveillance system to facilitate immediate reporting of priority diseases and events. The World Bank resident representative Feyi Borofi says this additional financing will strengthen Gambia's national system for public health preparedness. The task team leader Samuel Lante Mills also emphasized that the investment will contribute to the government's efforts in testing imported medicines and ensuring improved healthcare quality for all Gambians. The European Union, EU and Tunisia have signed a Memorandum of Understanding MOU to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership that focuses on economic development, renewable energies and addressing migration challenges. Under the MOU, 105 million euros will be provided to prevent the departure of migrant boats from Tunisian coast, combating smugglers and facilitating the return of Tunisians in irregular situations in the EU and migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. While the agreement has drawn criticism over the treatment of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa by Tunisian authorities, European officials stress that it includes contracts with different actors such as the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees UNHCR and the International Organization for Migration IOM. As part of the agreement, 15 million euros out of the total 105 million euros will be allocated to supporting the voluntary return of around 6,000 migrants from sub-Saharan Africa and Tunisia to their countries of origin. Additionally, the EU plans to provide Tunisian coastal authorities with 8 boats and drones to aid in search and rescue operations. The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has visited the United Arab Emirates UAE on a visit to secure energy supplies and offer Japanese green technology. Kishida, who met with the Emirati President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, said they discussed a comprehensive strategic partnership and signed several agreements covering different sectors. Japan, which is currently working on developing greener and renewable energy technologies and to become carbon neutral by 2050, is also promoting Japan's technological know-how, since energy-producing countries have decided to achieve a net zero transition, especially ahead of the COP28 summit to be held in Dubai in November. The Japanese Prime Minister is expected to attend a Japanese UAE business forum in Qatar today. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has announced that the United States is partnering with India to establish an investment platform aimed at reducing capital cost and attracting more private investment to accelerate India's energy transition. Yellen made the statement after a meeting with India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman during a G20 gathering. The two countries have been collaborating on various economic matters, including commercial partnerships, technology cooperation, and strengthening supply chains. A visit to India follows Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington, highlighting the growing ties between the two nations. This marks Yellen's third trip to India in less than a year, reflecting the increasing importance of the bilateral relationship. While there are doubts among analysts about the feasibility of achieving a comprehensive agreement on cross-border taxation, as different governments may prioritize their national tax systems, Yellen's focus remains on fostering economic cooperation. After the G20 finance meeting today, July 18, Yellen is scheduled to visit Vietnam next. Next is the UK. The UK's Business and Trade Secretary Kemi Badenoch has signed a treaty confirming the country's accession to the Indo-Pacific CPTPP bloc, marking the largest post-Brexit trade deal for the UK. Notably, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership is an 11-member trade bloc that includes countries like Canada, Mexico, Japan, Australia, Vietnam, Singapore and Malaysia. By joining the bloc, the UK becomes the first European nation to do so, unlocking trade opportunities in a region with a combined GDP of £12 trillion, that is $15.7 trillion. The treaty, which was signed in New Zealand, will undergo parliamentary scrutiny in the UK, while other CPTPP nations complete their own legislative processes. Also, over 99% of current UK exports to CPTPP countries will soon be eligible for zero tariffs, according to the UK government. During the signing ceremony in Auckland, Badenoch expressed enthusiasm for the deal, highlighting its potential to benefit British businesses and create billions of pounds in additional trade. Europe Director at the Confederation of British Industry, Sean Maguire, emphasized that the deal, combined with the UK's global trade agenda, has the potential to drive export-led growth in key sectors like services and green technology, while also strengthening supply chains. And that's the morning news update. I am Olaoluwa. Stay tuned to Early Exchange for more interesting stories.
Thank you so much, Ola, for the news. Now let's begin to explore the stories. One will not be very good for people who like to eat the cowhide, probably known as pomo, in this part of the country. I know Ayo likes that, so I'm wondering how he's going to cope. But first of all, let's bring you more info on that. The Office of the Chief Veterinary Officer of Nigeria on July 14 received a report of animals showing symptoms of suspected anthrax on a farm in Suleja, Niger State, like Ola just told us in the news. Now, consequently, it's been advised that the public, because of the outbreak of anthrax in a farm in Suleja, the public is advised against consuming hides, commonly known as pomo. So again, I said I'm wondering how you're going to cope with this news.
Well, first and foremost, let's establish the seriousness of the news in the first place before we go to personal banter. Anthrax is highly contagious. It is transmissible from animal to man. And so if the Ministry of Health says don't consume pomo for now, I think it is in our best interest to adhere, because we owe you that responsibility first and foremost. But having said that, there seems to be this battle for the ownership of this hide, this animal skin called pomo. At first it was said that it has no nutritional value. So, but some people said, okay, let's go on, whether it has value for nutrition or not. And now it is anthrax claiming, struggling with us about what we like to consume. That was your take on this?
Well, I think the hide, the skin and the hide is a really huge industry. It's unfortunately in Nigeria we have converted it to food. I remember the last time I was traveling from Kigali, they had to actually use dog to scan everybody's back to be sure that you are going out of Kigali. You don't go out with any hide or skin, because that's what is feeding the leather industry. And I think that's a whole lot of money. I wish it was possible for this thing not to be transmitted and forbid Nigerians from eating the pomo, so that we can actually also invest in our leather industry using this hide and skin. I think it would be more profitable to transfer the energy of the hide and skin into productive venture than just consuming it with buka and mama put.
Beyond warning Nigerians or beyond advising Nigerians to stop the consumption of pomo for now, I think a campaign should be taken to the markets, because that's where you find it being sold. If it's not sold, people won't be able to consume. So I think a lot of campaign has to be done, and agents, NAFDAC at this point in time, have to even spread out another government agency to sensitize people and to ensure that it is not consumed. And I don't even think it should be about pomo only, because at a time when a disease breaks out like this, you don't even know what part is spreading to. So I salute the federal government for the work it's done in trying to contain this. So I think more effort should be done to contain the spread of the anthrax disease so it doesn't become a nationwide problem.
Yeah, but I think also it's also very important to also isolate where the animal was found.
Yeah,
and so that we can actually put it down. Just to say don't eat pomo because you don't know how many animals have been infected.
Yes.
It's also to do sporadic checks on other places to be sure that other animals that have been slaughtered are not affected, so that it will not just be a blanket kind of restriction that animals should not be eaten.
All right.
Because that also will affect the industry.
Yes, the business.
Yes.
The cattle business.
From that, we have a security report here that says that personnel of the Nigerian Army has intercepted a truck transporting a large quantity of ammunition intended for Anambra State during a stop-and-search operation on the Agility Ode Road in Yewa North local government. As if we have not had enough violence in that part of the country. We still recall vividly the number of murders, assassinations
yes.
that have been taking place in the last 1 year or thereabouts. And I keep wondering about the porosity of our borders. Because, yeah, we have, let me say kudos to the Nigerian Army first and foremost, because we have no idea how many of these kind of shipments or truckloads have been done. And for every truck of ammunition intercepted, only God knows how many were able to, pass through without
being noticed.
And it begins to make me feel a bit concerned, because
of course you should be concerned.
Advocating safety of life and property in Nigeria. And some people from Mali, according to this report, are bringing in ammunitions. That bothers me.
It should bother you because you live in the country. You may not be in the eastern part of the country, but you may have relatives who are in the eastern part of the country. And even if it's not the eastern part of the country, if it's possible to bring in ammunition from Mali to the east, of course, it is possible to bring ammunition from Mali to any other parts of the country, which also makes people uncomfortable because of the security implication. But then it makes us look at the complicity of agencies that are supposed to protect the border, because really, when the ban on rice was done, it was very hard for you to find foreign rice in the markets now, except in some areas, and you know those ones are smuggled. So how is it easy for people to just smuggle ammunition if it is not easy for them to even bring in rice and other products that have been banned? So again, the government needs to look at the security agencies that are manning the borders. And I know that there are neighbors who want to encourage trade, but again, we should begin to look at how the kind of trade that we're having with our neighbors and what comes into the country.
Because for me here, the agency concerned should have been Nigerian Customs, not Nigerian Army.
Army, yes.
You now begin to question it. Were they sleeping? Like I said earlier on.
Yeah, it's been a very major issue in Nigeria, small and light weapons, the way they proliferate in the environment, actually heightening insecurity. Yeah, but my real challenge with this kind of news is the fact that sometimes I think our security agencies need to first and foremost do due diligence about some certain things before rushing to the press and the media, because sometimes this curtails the ability to be able to really unravel what had happened. You see, if you intercept a truck, we are not even really sure whether this thing was actually heading to Anambra State, because these are just preliminary confessions. We need to know who imported it, who is having it in Anambra State. And I think this should be done at the point where complete investigation has been done, so that we actually know who these syndicates are and where they live. Now, we go on air and things go by next week, you won't hear about this thing again. You wouldn't even hear somebody prosecuted, you won't hear somebody jailed, you won't hear other people arrested, and then next year you will hear another truck arrested. I think that the military should be able to know where their own boundary stops. You arrest, you pass on to the appropriate agency who will need to do the proper investigation, and then have the fact that even if you have to speak to the press, we should be able to say this is what it is, and then we are going to prosecute those who imported this vehicle. What we are told here now is the people escorting the vehicle, those who bring them. But they are bringing it to somebody, and they just say Anambra State. Who is receiving it in Anambra State? So all this is a syndicate, and this is what the security agencies should actually focus on. I think the DSS should do a lot to be able to crack this syndicate. They've been doing this for a very long time, and I think getting at the root and who are behind this importation of arms and ammunition into the country without license, then they should make a public spectacle of them so that at least we can breathe some sigh of relief as a people.
Now moving on to another matter, Lagos State has emerged as the most expensive city to live in Nigeria. Now in June, the inflation rate for Lagos State rose to 25.7%. Now it indicates that there's been a significant increase in the price of goods and services in Lagos. Now I think that one of the reasons why Lagos State is being the most expensive city to live in Nigeria, it's actually because Lagos has suffered more when it comes to the negative effect of urbanization. A lot of persons want to come into Lagos, and for people who do business, the cost of getting a shop to do business is quite high in Lagos. So if you live in a shop that is expensive, even if you buy your goods cheap, you want to make the profit from increasing the cost of your business. And so there's so much competition too. The market is quite large. A lot of things just make the price of goods and service very high in Lagos State.
Well, I wouldn't use the word suffered, really. Lagos has attracted population growth, the rural-urban migration. There are still people in the villages today that are just waiting to finish primary education.
And then they come to Lagos.
But they believe that, yes, this is Lagos, this is where things happen, this is where we can progress. And now, the land mass is not increasing. As a matter of fact, it is decreasing because the coastal regions are extending inward. Okay, so when you have a constant land mass, for instance, and population either by the reason of birth or rural urban migration is increasing daily, geometrically, at a point in time there will be stressing of the infrastructure. So to not have a square meter space to live and call your own in Lagos becomes a problem. And these are the factors that feed into this particular statistics of Lagos being the most expensive city in Nigeria. Like they call it, a colon baby. It doesn't.
Yeah, but you see, somebody, his figure that we're giving, people could have their own different perspective in terms of interpreting this data. And one would say, if you were to take the ordinary man in the street, you already know that Lagos is quite expensive. And this is also because of the fact that many people who live in Lagos, they also have capacity to buy. And then, of course, because it's all depending on your purchasing power, because if you have so much to sell and then you don't have people who have the wherewithal to buy what you are selling, of course, you won't be talking about that increment. But for me, really, is that looking at the average, 22%, 25%, yes, high. But what can we really do to bring inflation down? This is a real question, and this is what we have to really be stressing, because the real critical factor that is driving inflation in Nigeria is food. So which means, again, we must go back again to the issue of food security. Because food is what is driving this thing up. And don't forget, June, we just came out of the layer period. A lot of people fasted, they weren't doing a lot of farm. And of course, we're also in wet season. So all these things are affecting the cost and the prices of food. And don't also forget the part that logistics play. Now it's even worse now with the fuel subsidy removal. And I think July figure may be far more than this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, because in June, we had not removed the subsidy. Now the cost of moving farm produce from the farm to the urban cities would definitely affect, and then of course the figures are likely to be higher in July.
Okay.
We just hope that maybe somehow by the time the government is able to achieve food security, which President Tinubu has a plan and a roadmap to achieving that, we would have some relief, or residents of Lagos will have some relief as it concerns the cost of living. And that's all we can take on this segment. We'll go on a quick break. On the return, we're talking about cybersecurity. You don't go anywhere. Thank you very much for staying tuned to Early Exchange. Now let's turn attention to cybercrime. Now, cybercrime is one issue that the word is challenged with, because you hear of hack into sites of different agencies, hack into bank accounts, several kinds of fraud committed in the cyberspace. Now, there have been efforts by several governments of the world, Nigeria inclusive, to combat cybercrime. And these efforts have led to the establishment of cybersecurity agencies, collaboration with different international organizations towards curbing cybercrime. But that is not enough. Nigeria specifically, to handle the dynamics that is the dynamics about the cyberspace, it has led to the proposed plan of NIDA to set up a cybersecurity lab. Now, what do you think about that, setting up a cybersecurity lab, given the various efforts that have been done to ensure that cybercrime is curbed? Do you think it will significantly handle the issue of cybercrime? Before we get to our guests,
it's a good development. The way I see it, we should have done this a long time ago, because sadly enough, Nigeria is not a country to be underrated when it comes to crimes and cybercrimes. I'm not proud of it. Before the advent of cybercrime, one of the biggest frauds in history was that of a man, a Nigerian, who sold a fake airport to a Brazilian
bank,
financial conglomerate, a bank, and he sold a fake airport for the sum of $242 million. That was between 1995 and 1998. Now came the arrival of the cyber crime, and Nigerians are sadly pulling a negative weight there. We still recall the issue of Hush Puppy, who is still serving jail terms, and a lot more that are being uncovered and arrested and prosecuted on a daily basis almost in Nigeria. So this move by NIDA, or this proposal to establish a cybersecurity lab, it's a welcome development. And so we are not alone in the on the discourse today, because we have an expert who will speak to this issue and some other challenges that this may face. His name is Jide Awe. He is an entrepreneur and public policy consultant with extensive experience in digital development, and is one of the very first people to be certified competent in accelerating the implementation of the African Union Science, Technology and Innovation for Africa by the African Institute for Economic Development and Planning of the UN Commission for Africa, UNECA. He is the CEO of GIDO Limited. Let's just confirm first and foremost if you can hear us and see us. Mr. Jide, good morning. Please confirm.
Good morning. I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay, it's good to know that you could join us this morning. Now, when we say cybersecurity lab, it sounds strange. What kind of lab is that? What kind of testing is going to be done there? So let us know first what a cybersecurity lab is.
Okay. A cybersecurity lab is going to contain tools and equipment that will enable cybersecurity professionals, enthusiasts, stakeholders to gain more knowledge about cybersecurity. Essentially, it will be useful for things like research. If you are trying to do research into cybercrime and try to see how to stop it, provide resources for professionals who want to develop their skills, their capacity. So that's part of what it's going to do. And it's also going to be an avenue for collaboration, networking, because cybersecurity is not just a one organization or one agency business. It involves the security agencies, of capabilities.
We seem to have a bit of challenge with Mr. Jidu's video. But while we wait for that to be handled, so the cybersecurity space, bringing in people to test different softwares, hardwares, and the effectiveness, and of course to run analysis on attack patterns and all. But the people that will be there, do you foresee a chance where maybe some kind of information that that's made available to them? Okay, Mr. Jude is there. Having the cyber security lab, would people come in to analyze attack patterns, come in to test softwares and hardwares to tackle the issue of cyber crime? Would that in turn result to people having too much information at their disposal that could be even dangerous to the society?
I think we still have that challenge. Maybe signal strength is not that strong there. Yes, there are always moles.
I can hear you now.
Security establishments.
I can hear you.
Okay, he says he can hear us now.
While we resolve that,
I can hear you.
There are moles in
you
every security establishment. Okay, for every 12 disciples that you have, there's always one Judas.
A Judah.
Now, the good thing is that the strength of the 11 faithful should be enough to spot a Judas and take care of it. So we can't rule out the fact that, yes, for those who are working with this information, there might be some of them who might actually leak information to the wrong sources. Okay, I have. So
I think a kind of monitoring should even be done on people working in that space, so that it rules out the possibility of misuse of information. Hello, Mr. Jude, can you hear us now?
Mr. Jude, we can see you, but we can't hear you, really. I think the problem is not fully resolved. Okay, we understand the fact that we have to outthink those who are engaging in cyber crimes, because for them it's a way of life, really.
Yes, it is.
For us, it's harming us as individuals, harming us as nations, and it is spoiling the corporate image of Nigeria. So much that the green passport is not respected that much in some parts of the world.
Because of the activities of some persons referred to as Yahoo boys, some persons who have been engaged in one fraudulent activity or the other.
Yes. So when you have cybersecurity labs, as the name implies, it's a laboratory where ideas are mixed together, where tests are conducted, and then inferences are drawn. So when you draw inferences from tests, you are able to prescribe to organizations, you are able to prescribe to individuals and businesses on what to do and what not to do, so that they can forestall any cyber attack. Let's not forget that the people who are into cybercrime are pushing the envelope every day. They are trying to get smarter and see how they can, outsmart the dragnets of security officials. But then, when they do that, we should, as a nation, up our game, and that's why this NIDA proposal is coming at the right time.
So, Mr. Jude, can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
All right. So let's talk more about the cybersecurity labs. What will it do to curb cybercrime in Nigeria?
Okay, like what your colleague has said, there's going to be more, resources. If provide more resources, be more up to date, because you see, you are competing with cyber criminals who are also updating themselves. So it provides more up to date tools, technologies, and techniques. So it's going to help in that area, and will allow you to do some kind of innovation in cybersecurity, which is not really very possible in the normal environment, because it might actually damage certain things. So, and critically, you also build capacity, because you see, one of the areas that cybersecurity we are really lacking in this country is that we don't have enough cybersecurity professionals. So we need to build that capacity in different areas, not just in the technology area, but even in the judicial system, the security agencies. There's so much need to build cybersecurity capabilities there. And then another area which which actually is quite important is what we call digital forensics, which is where the ability to capture digital information of a cyber crime that you can use to collect that cyber crime information, and you can use it to prosecute cyber criminals. Again, that's another strategic area.
Okay, sir. Apart from the capability building and the capacity building that you spoke to, which could pose a challenge to the effective setting up and running of a cybersecurity lab as proposed by NIDA, what other challenges could stand in the way of actualizing this particular project? Because it is one thing to ideate in a context, it is another to be able to execute and sustain relevance. So what other challenges can we look at that might, hamper the effective setting up and running of cybersecurity labs in Nigeria?
A major challenge is funding. Funding, because you need funding. It's all good and well to say you want a cybersecurity lab, but cybersecurity lab requires infrastructure. It requires personnel, so you needs to be funded. So you have to devise a way of sustainable funding for the cybersecurity lab. Maybe involve the private sector, involve respected stakeholders, and that's another. The second thing is also make sure that as we are setting it up, is stakeholder inclusive. It's interesting to know that the NIDA DG announces while on a visit from a stakeholder, those are the certified fraud investigators. So there are other stakeholders too that are required to make it sustainable. You have to get them involved, because cybersecurity is not a government public sector affair. It's a total society endeavor. So that's also critical. So that as planning, as you are developing it, the private sector, other sectors are also involved, so that they can ensure the sustainability, and they are carried along. They have a sense of belonging as well. So they have even equip you with up-to-date knowledge and resources as well.
Okay, so what role will this cybersecurity lab play in bringing about an ecosystem, a collaborative ecosystem? By this I mean a forum where we have the private sector, the government agencies, individuals, and even the academia towards strengthening cybersecurity in Nigeria.
Well, it does that by providing the environment. The essence of having a cybersecurity together, and they can, connect together. They are all bringing their own different disciplines and perspectives, but the aim of the nation. And you see, interestingly, it's also an economic thing, because you see, cybersecurity affects a nation in this age, because we are talking of developing digital economies, and you want a digital economy that is trusted, trustworthy, and can be relied upon. So if you want to attract investment in your country, you must make sure that the state of cybersecurity is quite reasonable as well. And so if they bring this stakeholders, and then bring their different perspectives, and then you have a shared goal, and you press towards improving cybersecurity capabilities.
Okay. All right. It's disheartening to read that the global cost of cybercrime will rise in the next 5 years from $8.4 trillion to $23.84 trillion by 2027. Now, for every rise in the income of perpetrators of cybercrime means a sharp drop in the income, in the legit income of the victims, be that a country or an organization. Now, the establishment of cybersecurity lab will, for one, at least stop that particular wrong flow of money, of cash, from legitimate makers of the money to cyber fraudsters. That is an economic advantage. What other economic benefits can we expect from the setting up of cybersecurity lab, apart from the fact that it is stemming the tide of the wrong flow of cash in the wrong direction?
The main economic advantage will make your economy more trustworthy, but you you know, there's also byproducts in terms of creation of jobs. Cybersecurity, like you said, cybercrime is increasing, and so there's also a demand for cyber security professionals, cybersecurity solutions. And so cybersecurity lab should not just be looked at in terms of capacity building alone, but also innovation. So it allows you to innovate. You know, this digital era that we are in is an era that calls for a lot of innovation. And so it enables us to, in terms of that economic aspect of innovation, that cybersecurity actually drives itself. So cybersecurity can be a revenue earner, income generator for individuals, for organizations, and even for the nation itself. So that's an economic angle. And then the jobs, it creates jobs, you know, and there's a demand for cybersecurity. So you can create, your nation can actually be a nation that creates cybersecurity professionals. I mean, that's the way to go in this digital era, because these are the kind of jobs that are still going to be relevant, even as some jobs are being phased out in the digital era.
Okay, let's talk about policies and regulations. So what policies and regulations would Nigeria need to ensure privacy of data as we look towards a robust ecosystem that protects cybersecurity?
So these are what guides cybersecurity initiatives in Nigeria. So it is expected that even the idea of this cybersecurity lab is a strategic initiative based on the overall strategy in terms of analyzing the need to stop cyber criminals, get up to date with cyber criminals, analyzing the need to make sure that the economy becomes a trustworthy digital economy, and also making sure that we can create jobs from the cybersecurity boom, because really a lot of people look at it in terms of cyber crime, but there's also a boom, cybersecurity boom, that the nation can actually think. And so that's all strategic, coming from the strategies, the policy, and the cybersecurity policy and strategy. Then you have the Act, Cybersecurity Act.
Okay, thank you for that. We do know that the expertise that is needed to drive this initiative might not be domiciled in our locale here, and that calls for international collaboration. What are the different shades of this collaboration? Is it just in the area of manpower, or do we need to still collaborate technology-wise to ensure that we have a robust cybersecurity mechanism and framework in Nigeria? What international collaborations should we look into as we propose to establish these cybersecurity labs in Nigeria? Okay, we have lost the signal there, and I do hope we can return to that very, very soon before we wrap.
Okay, however, there are some arguments against the setting up of a cybersecurity lab in Nigeria. One of them is the cost it will require. Another is the sustainability. This will be the first time that we've had brilliant ideas about how to improve different aspects of the country. Now, this, as it concerns cybersecurity, it seemed like, wow, this is going to be something very wonderful. But looking down the line, over some years, sustaining the lab.
Well, sustaining speaks to a culture of maintenance. Just yesterday, we were taking a walk around the office and we saw a lot of abandoned buildings. And these are giant edifices that were built with public funds some years ago. And you begin to question, why are they not being used? Perhaps because there's a change of hand. Now, the real issue we're talking about here is that once we set up these cybersecurity labs, do we have the maintenance culture as a people to keep them functioning? That is number one. Let us leave cyber crimes alone. There are crimes that are not cyber related that are being busted every day. After the agency might have announced, okay, that we have busted this crime syndicate, what becomes of it? We don't hear about it any longer.
The prosecuting agency taking over.
So it speaks to lack of political will to see a crime that is busted to logical and justifiable conclusion, because there is no essence of busting a crime or setting up framework to bust crimes when those who are culprits and they have been pronounced guilty are not brought to book, at least are not made they are not made to appear to have faced the wrath of justice.
Of the law.
So when you catch criminals and you either go silent on what happens after, or you let them go, that actually speaks negatively of our culture as a people to bust crime and to do the right thing.
Okay, Mr. Jide is back with us, so I think he can speak more as to the sustainability of the lab. Because when you invest so much setting up technology, getting new software to detect crime and also to curb it, software to act as a defense against cyber attacks, how do we sustain this? Because I know that over the years, some of those software may have become obsolete, new ones may have emerged. So we need to keep investing, reinvestment, and getting updated in terms of knowledge, those who are going to handle the operations in the cyber security lab. How do we sustain this?
Like we say in this sector, cybersecurity is a constantly moving target. You have to keep yourself up to date. You have to make sure that you invest not just in the immediate, but be proactively thinking ahead. So you must make sure that you are constantly investing in education and investing in what we call lifelong learning, because everything is always changing. And then in terms of ensuring the sustainability of the lab, it's a question of management and planning. You understand? You know what the resources are that you have on ground, and then you also have projections in terms of what you're projecting in the future. And as you are projecting, you're also making sure that you are checking, you are evaluating. You set up a lab today, maybe in a certain period of time, you assess the value of the lab, you assess the impact of the lab. You don't just set it up and then go to sleep. You understand? You keep on assessing it, you keep on seeing whether it's having the desired impact. And that's why, again, I say that collaboration, especially with stakeholders, local stakeholders, national stakeholders, who will also be involved in trying to assess what is going on, with the lab as well. And it's not just something that just create and then, you don't check whether it's actually having any effectiveness. So when you are talking of collaboration, that's where external people can come. Like the question you mentioned earlier, apart from capacity building, collaboration can also be through resources, provision of resources. You can get cybersecurity tools, technologies that can be shared and that can be leveraged. And cybersecurity is not a local Nigerian issue; it's a global issue. So you need to connect with others in other jurisdictions, in other countries, so that you are also aware of what is going on. And you share, you have a way of sharing information with the global community as well.
Okay, sir. Yes, let's look at how to incentivize the private sector, because cybercrime is not government specific. As a matter of fact, private sectors are targeted more in some crimes than even government infrastructure. How should the Nigerian government incentivize private stakeholders to ensure that we have effective handshake between the public and the private and come up with a partnership that will fight this cybercrime effectively? What kind of incentives are we meant to give out as a government that will bring in private investors and collaborators that will join us in setting up these cyber labs or maintaining them?
First of all, you must get them involved from the start. That's the best way of, we talk of security by design. You need to collaborate by design. You don't collaborate when you have finished everything.
Okay, network issue there again.
And they will also be able to tell you some of the things that they will value in terms of that kind of collaboration.
Okay.
Information sharing. We've talked about collaboration, yes, but information sharing, how should it be as we look forward to having this cyber lab operational? Does it have to be voluntary?
There must be trust. You cannot have sincere collaboration if there's no trust. You measure trust. You make sure that people live up to their expectations. You know, it's an agreement. You know that kind of the private sector, the public sector. Once you cannot trust people that you're collaborating with, there's no collaboration. So that is critical. It's not everything that you share. There's something not in security circles as need to know. So it's not, and even with this data protection climate right now, it's not all the data that you necessarily share. There's something like data minimization. So the data people you are collaborating with need to know that you share with them. So that's how it's done. Then make sure that there's trust.
Okay, so let's look at the curriculum we run in our schools. I know that cybersecurity is a very technical side of the divide, talking about digital skill. It's not something you teach just anyhow. But there is an argument in some quarters that what if we have snippets of cybersecurity topics introduced at an earlier age, so that even young ones, because Albert Einstein said if you cannot explain an idea to a 6-year-old to understand, you probably don't understand it fully. Can we begin to look at our curriculum in schools, maybe from the secondary school level, if not the primary school level, and see how little of cybersecurity tips we can begin to incorporate into our curriculum? Perhaps that creates a culture of cyber sensitivity for them at that very young age. Would that call for including it in their curriculum be a right one?
It is a right one. In fact, even at junior ages, already there is a concept of child online protection. Because even children, whether they are primary or whatever, they need to start being aware of cybersecurity. Fundamental digital skill requirement now is cybersecurity is one of the fundamental digital skills requirements. And you can't be using computers and you are not aware of the dangers of using computers. You understand? So apart from the usage, for the professionals, people that want to study computer science, computer engineering, it's fundamental that it's incorporated in their curriculum as well. Because you are designing solutions, IT solutions, you must make sure that there is security from the onset when you are designing those solutions. You don't just design something that is fanciful, but it's insecure and creates problems for customers. So definitely, it is something that needs to be incorporated into the curriculum, and even I encourage more organizations and more educational organizations to actually have dedicated cybersecurity programs, apart from incorporating it into the standard computing curriculum.
There are private cybersecurity firms. How do we encourage them and strengthen them, and perhaps form a synergy between the private cybersecurity firms and government cybersecurity operation?
Provide incentives. I think that was the question we were asking when we lost connection. Provide them with incentives, and the kind of incentives starts with, first of all, recognition. And then, first of all, you also say, okay, if it's in terms of grants, if it's in terms of tax incentives, things that, that make sense to them. Because a lot of time when it provides incentive in the private sector, we need to connect with them and make sure that these are things that will actually help their business. Like, for example, we are talking of cybersecurity in educational institutions, one private sector to also be involved in that. Are there any tax incentive or any things that they are going to benefit from being involved in that? You understand? So these are the ways in which and then the recognition. There's a need for recognition of the importance of cybersecurity, as well as the role that cybersecurity firms and professionals play as well. There are associations, there are bodies that try to promote cybersecurity. So the government can also work with, collaborate with some of these organizations and individuals and associations.
What about the aspect of synergy, so they don't run in isolation and to serve as some form of monitoring on their activities?
That's absolutely. You see, once you are talking together, then there's an agreed, there are agreed standards, there are agreed issues, You know, we cannot do different things. We have a shared goal. That's the essence of collaboration. But you also know that this is for the together. You know, it's not a question of it to the private sector. You carry it along. You develop this with them. This kind of cybersecurity lab, you develop it with them, not to them. You understand? There's a big difference. So that way, they are able to, you know, we trust you, and you too can also tell them this is allowed, this is not allowed.
Okay. On the very last note, Mr. Jide, let me ask you about recruiting manpower for these cybersecurity labs. What should the minimum entry qualification be? People with high-tech ICT skills, or should we make it a bit more relaxed and bring in even people at secondary school level into this manpower for our cybersecurity labs? Minimum entry qualification, what should it be?
I want it to be relaxed, because I want a situation where you have different levels. You understand? You cannot say everybody must be at the level of maybe a graduate. There are a lot of young people who are not graduates who are in secondary schools that can develop these cybersecurity skills. And we can actually steer them away from hacking and cybercrime if we actually get them involved early on. And they do not have to be in university or even be university graduate, but can start instilling that culture of cybersecurity as a profession, as an income generator, as a job. You understand? And that's why I believe that, yes, you can have classes for people who are graduates, you know, to equip them, improve their cybersecurity capabilities. But you should also not neglect junior one youth, because they have the capacity as well to develop these capabilities and also exploit the opportunities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jide Ewe, for your time with us on Early Exchange. We have been talking with Mr. Jide Ewe, who is CEO of Judo Systems Limited. He's an entrepreneur and public policy consultant, as we discuss the NIDA proposed cybersecurity lab. We'll take a break and then we'll bring you weather report. Thereafter, we'll be looking at unemployment. Stay tuned.
When the e-Naira was introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the internet access was a major challenge by a lot of Nigerians. Today, that challenge has been taken care of as the Apex body just upgraded the e-Naira using a special chip-enabled device called the near-field communication. With or without the internet or smartphone, you can transact with e-Naira. The e-Naira serves as a medium of exchange and a store of value, offering advantages in real-time transactions and over cash payments. Its unique operational structure distinguishes it from other forms of central bank money, and it holds potential benefits across various sectors of the economy. For an instrument introduced to promote financial inclusion of unbanked Nigerians, how much of it is being embraced by the target markets?
I understand, I think e-Naira is a form of, like an electronic form of Naira. Like if you don't want to carry out transactions with physical cash, you can use the e-Naira. I think just like this Bitcoin and all of that, so yeah.
I think I'm aware, I read that on one of the blogs, and I think it's a welcome development, more like we doing like the advanced country, so it's a welcome thing. And I think it's going to help us reduce the rate at which we move around with cash.
While some participants expressed skepticism about the need for the digital currency, others regarded the upgrade as a positive development. They emphasized the importance of ensuring that the upgrade benefits not only the elites, but also reaches remote areas and support the less privileged.
For now, there are problems with, how will I say, unstable financial provision. Yeah, so like the providers of such care, they're not trustworthy. Sometimes there are problems. So, and those problems tend to affect the, how will I say, efficiency of the product. Yeah, so that's what I'll say.
Another respondent highlighted his personal experience as an adopter of the e-Naira prior to the upgrade. He expressed hope that the upgrade will bring greater benefits to Nigerians. Evidently, the e-Naira upgrade by the CBN presents an opportunity for improved financial transaction and economic inclusivity. As the upgrade progresses, it is crucial to address the concern and the needs of all Nigerians, ensuring accessibility and equitable distribution of its benefits. Chamaka Opara, Souk News.
Welcome back. That report you just watched is about the upgrade that is done to the e-Naira. The e-Naira, you will recall, was introduced on the 25th of October 2021 by the Buhari regime. And the whole idea is to promote financial inclusivity. It was meant to give more opportunities for the non-banked Nigerians to take part in the financial ecosystem. And there was a slogan they had then. It was called Same Naira, More Possibilities. But 2 years down the line, of course, there is need, according to the CBN, to upgrade this particular tool of financial transaction. So it has been upgraded.
Yes, it has.
But how many Nigerians that are being targeted originally are really aware of what the e-Naira is or what the possibilities will be?
So we have someone who will talk about this. He is Mr. Mujib Ishola, the GCTO Remita. You should know Remita if you've ever done online payments. So that's very popular. Welcome, Mujib Ishola.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So let's talk about e-Naira. It's not well understood yet by a lot of Nigerians. When you say e-Naira, some will ask, what is that? So what is e-Naira and what can be done with it?
Thank you. A lot can be done with it, right? So first off, the e-Naira is same Naira, but in a digital form. It's based on blockchain technology. So think of the Naira right now being evolving into a new digital currency that is the rate right now. So essentially the same Naira, but in the digital form. That's what it is. What can you do with it? A lot, right? Think of when we had phones, right? When we started off with phones, we had the dial-up phones and the rest of it. But today, everybody has a mobile phone. In fact, right now, you can have a phone on your wrist. It's the same thing, right? It's change, innovation, right? What can you do with it? Same thing you've always done with your money, but in a different form, in a different way, using the latest technology.
Okay. One issue that makes comprehension of financial initiatives a bit cumbersome to understand is use of what we call register. Okay, even this update is said to be in the context of introducing a near-field communication device, NFC, which in simple English means you can transact without internet facility. Can you please explain on this NFC to the viewers out there?
Okay, NFC is near-field communication, right, in terms of transferring data from one device to the other. But as it relates with payment, it simply means being able to make your everyday payments using the contactless way of doing it, i.e. you can just tap your phone on another device and money moves. The technology of NFC has been around for a while, and the conversation, right, is heating up, especially with this new upgrade. The technology in itself is not new. NFC has been around for almost a decade right now. It's just that we are not using it in this part of the world. In other parts of the world, there are situations where you could just walk into a shop, pick up an item, scan it by yourself, and you make your payments and go. So it's about making it easier to transact more than anything.
So how is having the eNaira wallet any different from you having the mobile bank app? And what's the advantage of the eNaira wallet over the mobile app, if it has any?
Well, they're both store values, right? It just depends. The difference is majorly who holds the money. Right now, if you have a bank app, your money is with the bank, right? They have the custody of your money. They're being regulated by CBN, of course, right? And they have to follow the rules. But when it comes to the eNaira, everything is on the central bank, right? Today, if you have an account with any of the banks today, they are insured by NDIC up to an amount, right? But with the CBN carries the full liability of the funds held in those wallets. Those are the major differences if you look at it from the monetary point of view. In terms of onboarding, I mean, things are easier these days in terms of opening accounts, creating digital wallets and the rest of it. Things are getting easier. However, on the eNaira, things are even a lot more interesting, because right now, with the conversation around using the NIN to open an account, it just opens up a world of people coming into the digital space. So those are the major differences, I would say.
All right. There is this issue of security concern about the use of eNaira. It's a store of value, like you said, and when value is stored, it means value can be breached if the security protocols are not well tied. People are asking, this seems to be a homegrown solution. How secure is it to transact with the eNaira?
Homegrown solution is not a problem. Remita has been around for a long time right now, and we've been doing things and winning awards all over the world. So homegrown is not a problem, and there is no claim to the technology on its own, right? The technology, it's blockchain, right? DLTs, no one person owns it, right? In terms of security, there's a word, what we do right now is what I'll call delegated responsibility, right? In terms of security when it comes to how we operate today. As that relates with the security of the eNaira is that everybody should be responsible for their security first. But the technology that the eNaira is built on top of in itself, right, has security at the base of it, right? It's not an added on thing on top of it. So there's that security at the infrastructure level. And remember that we're talking about money. So CBN also has to follow the same rules the banks and other financial providers are following in terms of making sure that there's two-factor authentication on most of the apps, making sure that you can trace your transaction from beginning to end, making sure that nobody else has access to those transactions. So they have to follow the same rules when it comes to that. But when it comes to the other types of security that, other things you hear these days, which is your app has been hacked or something like that, that is more to do with literacy, understanding the impact this has on your money as a whole.
The eNaira is set to facilitate cross-border transactions without you having to do currency conversion. How does this work, knowing that not all countries in Africa use the same currency? So how does it work?
Well, their currency swaps up and down, right? And that has been around for a while, right? But with the recent happenings in the country, no FX can be paid. All receipt must be paid in Naira. That's a recent thing happening. So before now, it would have been a thing of having a swap arrangement with another country. But right now, you don't even have to worry about that, because once you want to move money, the yuan to Naira, it just happens. You don't have to worry about it. All that sits with the CBN. The financial transactions happen between the two central banks of the countries involved. You don't have to worry about going to look for a bank to exchange it if you don't have to, and you don't have to worry about P2P. P2P means your black market traders or your family and friends and type of things. You don't have to do that again. Just go into the app, move the money, and magic happens.
All right. The eNaira is not the only digital wallet that exists today. Now, and there's this issue of interoperability between the eNaira and other wallets. How much of handshake do we have existing among all these digital wallets in the country?
Okay, so there's interoperability. However, you have to segment them, right? Mobile money or other wallets, as you have it, are privately held, right? Some of them are privately held, some of them are held by the banks and the rest of them. And then interoperability exists today between the bank and the eNaira system. You have to give it to CBN, right? Yes, we don't often get a lot of things right, but given the time that has been spent on this project, that has been, at least right now, is being done well. And that's another area, the collaboration between the CBN and fintech players like ourselves is helping, because we have also, at Remita, we have also created rails for other players to play on, and then which helps the interoperability you're talking about. It is already there. You can move money between the two systems. However, for privately held wallets, that is yet to happen fully.
So what's the level of transaction right now on the eNaira? Because it was launched 2 years ago. This is 2023 now. How much of it people embraced, and how can the use of the eNaira be extended to the rural areas, considering the fact that one of the aim of the establishment of the eNaira was to encourage financial inclusion?
A lot to unpack right there, right? In terms of the numbers, the issue with the numbers right now, I'll say they're growing, to start off with, they're growing. However, the conversation should be around acceptance, right? Not many people, like you said, understand what eNaira is about, so acceptance is still difficult, right? So it's not available everywhere. However, we have made it easier in terms of being able to use eNaira to make any kind of payment on our platform. So that has broadened acceptance from that point of view. When it comes to the rural area, right, it's going to grow, but it's not there yet, right? Of course, the system is still fairly new. It took a long time before the card systems got to where the levels they got to. It took a very long time for funds transfer that everybody's embracing right now to get to where they're getting to. But with the rural areas, right, it's happening. There's a lot of drives going on by CBN, by people like ourselves, players in the industry, to explain and bring people on. So I would say it's growing, and it will keep growing.
Okay, let's look at the cash dependency culture in Nigeria. The cash crunch that we went through around February and March should ordinarily have forced us to adopt going cashless for real, because it was, well, people say it was circumstantial, but we should, in my own opinion, have latched onto that opportunity to go completely cashless, at least largely cashless. But you still find a lot of cash dependency. We are all back, so to speak, to cash transactions. And this speaks to probably inadequate information or sensitization. The CBN, when they launched the e-Naira, actually went all out to inform the public. There were campaigns everywhere, but it has since gone to sleep. Why is that?
I wouldn't say it has gone to sleep. I think it's a thing of understanding that things happen and things that keep happening. In terms of the issues around cash availability and the rest of it in the last, few months, right? It wasn't a right time to preach everybody moved to cashless. There were other problems people were contending with, right? And change is difficult. Change needs to be managed, right? And the management of it could have been better. However, if you look at the numbers, NIBSS has a lot of numbers out there in terms of the amount of EFTs that happened within that period. It grew fourfold, right? So whilst that number still doesn't cover a large chunk of the society, it's still a fantastic increase to, most people these days understand the need for e-payments, and that is happening and is growing. And I won't say we are back into cash really, because the only reason why you need cash, right, is because of the same thing I said before, which is acceptance. Most people are still waking up to the fact that this is a new reality, right? And for that reality to happen, right, the infrastructures needs to keep growing. And don't forget that every day a new set of account holders they come on stream, right, and that will keep growing. And it's only a matter of time before we achieve the levels that we're that we should be at.
What are the socioeconomic benefits of widespread adoption of the e-Naira use?
A lot, right? If I think about it from a product designer's point of view, it gives you an opportunity to build new financial products, right, at the speed of light, because you don't have to worry about all the infrastructure that people like us are providing. You don't have to worry about it again. You don't have to worry about e-Naira infrastructure. You just focus on your product, right? Think of the new types of insurance products that might come up. Think of, the different products people can build. It's not just about moving money. I think moving money is there, right? But that's not why people do what they do. They do it to fulfill something, right? So you start seeing new products come on stream and new ways of doing things. That's from the product design perspective. But if you think about it again, it makes everything faster. Right now, we must applaud people within this financial space, because Nigeria keeps leading when it comes to fintech and the payment space, right? Things are already fast, right? If you think moving money is fast, e-Naira will make it faster, especially as it relates to SMEs, as it relates to cross-border payment. Things will be faster. And why worry about transactions when you can worry about, if you want to buy a loaf of bread, you go get a loaf of bread, tap on your bread seller's device, and the payment is made, rather than trying to worry about give me your account and the rest of it.
To be able to tap the loaf of bread with my phone and I get my bread sounds very beautiful, and that speaks to something on the technical side, that is cross-sector collaboration. When fintechs like you started, you were essentially payment platforms, and now you people are like banks on your own. Yes, we know we can open a whole bank accounts, even company bank accounts with fintechs. Now, is it a case of co-opetition or competition? speaking exclusively to, cross-sector collaboration?
I would say it's extreme collaboration. Yes, in the beginning it was, okay, let's watch, what are you doing, what am I doing? But right now, I think everybody has, the sector is very, very matured, and everybody knows their role. Fintechs are not banks and cannot hold money, right? The only people licensed
bank accounts with you.
The only people licensed to hold money are banks, right? It's either you're a bank or you have a mobile money license. I can make the process of obtaining an account easier as a fintech, which is what people like us have done. On Remitter, you can add whatever account you have, and you can open an INAIRA straight. It doesn't mean I'm the one holding the money. I can't hold the money by regulation and by law. I can only help facilitate making that easier. And you have to understand that innovation thrives when different people see things from different angles, right? That's what is happening. I think the competition would always be there, but I think right now what is happening is more of extreme collaboration, I would say.
Let's come to security. Now, when things become more easy, financial transactions become more easy, sometimes it heightens the risk that could come, chances of fraud happening. You mentioned that, for instance, you want to buy bread, you could just touch your bread seller's phone with that. So does the use of the INAIRA, the forms in which it comes, or the innovations that have come with its use, does it heighten the risk of fraud or cybercrime?
Okay, okay. You're discussing or describing a lot of things in there, right? So cybercrime is a crime. It doesn't matter. A crime is a crime. It doesn't matter whether it's cyber or physical. So let me leave that to one side.
Okay,
right?
But come to specifically
the INAIRA. It won't make it easier for crime in any way, right? What it will just do is increase the number of people that are included digitally, and with that comes with the added level of literacy that needs to happen. So again, when there's an opportunity, when people don't really understand the information that is being presented, that presents an opportunity for people to be, I would say, taken advantage of. But in terms of the platform on its own, in terms of what the INAIRA does, it's backed by cryptography. In itself, in order for you to break those levels of security at the infrastructure layer, then you must need mainframe computers that, not your typical person can get access to.
So it's very comforting to know that, because some persons would just feel like, you can just touch my phone. So what if, for instance, I leave my phone, someone comes, someone gains access to it, it means my money is gone.
Not that simple, not that straightforward.
I think it's about promoting trust and confidence in the use of e-wallet. So how do we do this? How do you factor it into the design of the e-wallet to ensure that we are able to trust?
I think the beginning of trust is having conversations like this, right? Where people genuinely, ask the question, right? Ask questions and get meaningful answers to them, and that is the start of it all. In terms of trust, again, we're dealing with a lot when it comes to Nigeria. We're dealing with a lot, and with that comes the challenge again. You're bringing something new, and then somebody is thinking, oh, okay, this change is going to be huge, so let me watch and see. What is happening right now is not that so much people don't trust what is going on. It's so much that people are watching, waiting and watching to see, oh, okay, how far is this going to go? So yes, the trust is about having a conversation. Also, extending the acceptance of the INAIRA and digital currency. I think that will go a very long way. Having the literacy drives that is happening almost every other month, right? Having the conversation, putting the news out there, and that would make things a lot better.
Being in operation for about 2 years now, what other innovation do you think the INAIRA needs right now?
Apart from
apart from the upgrade.
But the upgrade, okay, look, upgrade is not a one-time thing, right?
Okay.
It's what you're seeing right now is, I would say, what you can touch, right? So that's what you can see. But you know, upgrade would continue for as long as systems are available, because new technology comes into play, new ways of doing things come into play. So it will keep going. In terms of the new things to do, right, is for us to look at fintech players like us to do the work. CBN plays at the infrastructure level, right? They are enablers. They are meant to make the system work from the physical part of things, from the infrastructure part of things. But I don't expect them to create the kind of products or build innovations the way fintech players will do them. And that will be the space to watch, really.
Okay.
I would have thought that fintech companies, considering how much you people are making from us, will drive the conversation around digital literacy, because around financial literacy, because if we need a literate workforce or population to be able to tap into the full potentials of the e-wallets, how much of CSR are fintech companies doing in the area of promoting financial literacy?
A lot. Now, you mentioned money. Okay, let's go there. You know, the price and the cost of things in Nigeria, especially when it comes to fintech, is very highly regulated, right? And you have to work within the parameters that CBN sets. And right now, those figures keep coming down. But that's not a contention, right? For fintechs like us, right, the CSR we do is very high. The conversation keeps going, whether it's physical, whether it's online, it just keeps going. And the reason it keeps going is because we ourselves need to have that conversation with our customers, right? Yes, we want to promote something, but you can only promote what people want and what people need. You have to be solving a problem, and the way to do that is having this conversation as a way of CSR, you know, having forum, having conferences. There are a lot of conferences and a lot of workshops that happen for free, right? You just register, you go to these things, and we even taking it a step further, right? We go into the schools, we go into the universities, we go into the markets to have this conversation. It's about having conversation, human connections, rather than pushing so much digital talks here and there.
Mm. So looking broadly now, payment systems providers, what would encourage them, and what would make them more effective?
Encouragement. Encouragement is about being given the opportunity to solve real problems, right? I'm going to stay with the inner narrative, right? There's a lot of mistrust still within the whole system, and it's got nothing to do with fintechs, it's got nothing to do with inner, it's just what it is, the times, right? So what will make things better is just for people to be open and have the conversations, right? Definitely fintechs don't know it all, and you know, the conversations need to keep going. From an infrastructural point of view, the infrastructures we have right now are still evolving. You have to understand that some of these things have been around for decades, and they too are undergoing upgrades. So once these upgrades, you know, happen, we'll begin to see the ripple effect of that. So I'll say, you know, better infrastructure and better support from regulators as well would definitely help. Right now, you have to deal with a lot when it comes to regulation. There's policies everywhere, and you have to deal with them. It's not like you can choose what you comply with or not. It's either you're in compliance or you're not. You know, so those things would help players to do better.
I hope we can actually attempt this question without sounding a bit too techy. I know you spoke about security being factored into the infrastructure from the design thinking standpoint in the first place. But then no system is fail-safe. So when there are infractions or digital breaches of this so-called secured infrastructure, what is the speed of correction of these infractions with respect to the e-naira?
Okay. 24/7 availability, right, is what digital platforms offer, which means that there are people available to handle situations when they arise. There are monitoring systems in place, right? There are monitoring systems in place to alert the different players and within the ecosystem as to what is going on. And when we say security breaches, right, it'll be nice to separate things, right? Are we talking about the infrastructure level? Are we talking about from a customer point of view? What exactly does it mean? When you hear fraud, it will be good for journalists like you to let's be clear on what we're talking about. Is it that the system was broken into? Is it that somebody was careless with their passwords and pins? You know, what really happened? You know, so so for me, it's like those systems are in place already. They're not new. Like I said, the CBN providing this service also have to comply with the same rules the banks are compliant with. So it's not they're not a special. It's not a special system from that point of view.
On a final note, can you just take us through the process of having an eNaira wallet? So if I have a mobile app, or I don't even have a mobile app, so how do I get to having the eNaira wallet and begin to transact with it? Okay.
You can download the Remitter app. Let me start with the eNaira wallet. You can download the Speed wallet and then go through it. It's 1 or 2 clicks from that screen, and then you have your wallet, right? From there, you can begin to transfer. Or you can go onto the Remitter app, download it, and create your wallet same way. The difference between the two is that you can pretty much make any type of payment to any merchant, any business, anybody on that app, same as you do today.
Okay. There was a time I read yesterday when this news broke that was a bit confusing to some people. They talk about the CBN minting eNaira. I mean, I can understand minting real Naira. What is the talk of minting eNaira?
Okay.
So it's just figures?
No, it's not just figures.
Okay, so explain.
Minting is a process of getting new Naira in circulation.
Notes.
Right? Well,
this is eNaira now. What are you minting?
You're minting the token. So you have to generate those Naira digitally using cryptography, right? The thing about monetary policies, or when it comes to minting, burning currency, or taking money out of circulation, is that there's strict rules to them. You can't just wake up and say, "Hey, I'm now going to move some zeros about." No, that's not how it works. Minting is the process of bringing, digitally creating the Naira, tokenizing it, and putting it in.
So for real, the Naira exists digitally in a particular storage device?
It does.
Okay. Okay.
Digitally, of course.
Okay, now let's go back to homegrown technology, homegrown solution. Now, usually when a thing like this happens, you would think, oh, it has to be foreign partners providing the technology and even the manpower to run this. But from what you said and from what we've seen large participation. I don't know if maybe some part of it was outsourced, but basically this is something run by Nigerians. And the eNaira seems to be the first in Africa. So what does that say for Nigeria as far as technology is concerned, and what opportunity does it create for tech giants or tech people in Nigeria?
A lot. We don't export our technologies enough. I mean, we're beginning to, right? But I'm talking about it from a government-to-government point of view, right? With what we have done with the eNaira, we can easily export that to other parts of Africa and other part of the world, right? Because we now have the experience. We've gone through it. We can tell you what to do and what not to do, and when it comes to the eNaira. When it comes to the people of Nigeria, right, the job opportunities in terms of technology keeps growing. I mean, the amount of engineers and non-engineers in tech that have had the opportunity to work on products like this have grown, which means that we now have the tech resource that we can export as well. I mean, whether you like it or not, that export is happening already anyways, right? So the opportunity keeps growing in that area. So the job creation opportunity is there. We have the experience and we can export it.
Good to know. Good to know that we can do that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mujibi Shola, who is the CTO of Remita. On a very final note, I know you people are called big boys, not for the fun of it, because it used to be people in oil and gas. But we now know that the real money is in fintech. After all, a fintech company is valued higher than any commercial bank in Nigeria. I won't mention that you are a big boy, okay? So, it's been a very interesting time with a big boy in the house. Mujibi Shola, I want to say thank you to you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I'm particularly happy. Yeah, on a light note, it makes me happy that I could just have an account with the Central Bank of Nigeria, because usually it's the commercial banks who have accounts with the central banks, and now individuals can say my account at the central bank. That's as a kind of...
Oh my goodness, that feels good. The show is still early exchange. We'll go on a short break now. Now, when we're back, we'll look at another Asian talent. Please stay.
As the job market continues to evolve and industries adapt to changing times, many young individuals are facing unprecedented challenges in securing stable and fulfilling employment. Despite academic qualifications and aspirations, an alarming number of them find themselves caught in either the grip of unemployment or trapped in jobs that do not fully utilize their skills and potential. Join us as we embark on a journey to understand the magnitude of the problem, the efforts being made to combat it, and the hopes and aspirations of Nigeria's future leaders. In the wake of unprecedented global economic challenges, the specter of unemployment and underemployment continues to cast a long shadow over societies worldwide.
Unemployment is a major setback for the country, especially for young individuals just graduating from the university. And that is why if you find yourself in a country like Nigeria, it's better you have a set skill, you have a skill, that would, propel you in life. Probably that will be what you will be, what you will live on forever, who knows. And if the job doesn't come, just make sure you have something, handy that you can fall back on.
In the case of underemployment, young individuals may lose faith in the value of their education and expertise, creating a mismatch between their aspirations and the available opportunities. This, in turn, hampers their professional growth and contribution to the economy.
As a youth now, you must not be waiting for working under someone. You can work for yourself and gain maybe a little bit that you can gain for yourself. And there's different serious work that you can do for yourself.
They could learn any trade, at least because of the situation in the country now. Mostly jobs are not easy to get, so they should learn trade. There's forex trading. It's nice, but it's risky, but it's also nice. You can trade forex, and also you can add up with business too.
The government should endeavor to provide more job opportunities. Create industries, platforms for people to work, and you understand. Like the new refinery now. I don't know when it will start working. It's a very good medium to actually employ thousands of people, thousands of Nigerians. So of course, like that. So we can have many more industries, many more, sectors, coming up. Individuals also that can set up firms, to help individuals.
A society that nurtures its young and harnesses the full potential of its workforce lays the foundation for a prosperous future. It is incumbent to embrace innovative solutions, invest in the youth, and create an environment that fosters economic growth and societal well-being. Sheon Ajayi, Sook News.
Yes, after talking about the INAR to facilitate payments, we need to talk about unemployment, because how can you make payments if you are unemployed, if you're not generating income?
What would you spend
what would you
if
spend if you don't have a job? Now, looking at unemployment, according to the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, NBS, due to data released in April 2023, about over 80 million Nigerian youths are unemployed, not to mention underemployment, because some persons have a job, but do they earn enough to make ends meet? Now, to talk about this with us, we have Mr. Razak Noibi, who is the SSA on Community Affairs, Lagos Island East LCDA, is also the Community Development Committee Chairman. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir, and we appreciate the work we've been doing. We're talking about youth unemployment. If over half of the youth population in Nigeria is unemployed, that speaks to an alarm that should ring every time in our head. How bad do you think the issue of unemployment among youth is in Nigeria? And you can center it on Lagos.
Well, it's unfortunate we find ourselves where we are today. When we are very young, even before you left either secondary school or university, the job is there waiting for you. Even you have a choice. You may even get employment for different organizations. Up to 10, you have to choose where you have to go. But what really happened in Nigeria is that what we have, we are unable to manage it very well. In essence, we believe we are Father Christmas. Because that time we have more than. This country is very rich that even the UK even borrowed from us then. But I believe what even speed up the employment in this country is that we've lost our family values. Because when we are very young, even though you have nothing to do, you have to go to dictatorship for family or mother or whatever. But now, there is no control on the children. And what led to youth employment is that we believe in white-collar job. That white-collar job is what makes things worse. I'm saying this because we believe, even in our system in Nigeria, we believe somebody who can read and write, that's the person we can employ. Because at a time, those like the carpentry or any other artwork, we don't regard them. Okay. We believe on paperwork. At least you went to university, this, and you have this. Whereas it's not big what we have in this country now. And that's what prompted us in Lagos Island SCD. We have a vocational center which is being run by the local government.
Okay.
We've had this school for over 20 years. Even it's been sponsored, been managed by the LCD.
Okay, now having schools to take care of skills, people are acquiring skills.
Yes.
But what are the issues with job creation? Because you find some persons will take time to learn a skill. After learning the skill, they're still not employed, or they've still not created jobs out of that skill.
The job is there, but most of our youth now, they believe in get rich quick. Why I'm saying that, what is the meaning of Yahoo Yahoo? It's because the youth does not want to work. And they believe that, we left school together now. Where is he getting it? They want to toe the line of those who wants to get rich quickly. That's most of our children, and this abandon what they're supposed to do. They don't believe that you have to make up yourself and empower yourself before you can get rich. Because those are the top. They got a lot of process, but at youth now, they don't want to go through those processes. And that make unemployment more. Supposing they are even, the belief is what they do with their hand. The hand is something. I believe the youth employment will not be so much. But what really happened is that now it depends on the government and the children and the parents. Well, I'm saying the parents has a lot to do, because now with the Western culture make things worse. In the past, your father or your mother will tell you this is the way you should go. You exercise patience. Even if the children even controlling the father now,
Okay, let's go away from the influence of the Western culture, because we've had our independence since 1960, and by now we should have been done with whatever relics of the Western colonization had on us. Now, let's look at vocational centers like yours.
Yes.
There is so much talk about skill acquisition at centers like yours, really, without so much investment in their financial literacy. It is one thing for you to teach me to be a carpenter, for instance, or a fashion designer, for instance. What about the business side of it? Because most of them end up leaving those training centers without requisite knowledge of how to set up a business. So you end up creating more artisans, more technicians, as against more job creators. How do you address that?
That is where our government to do the needful.
Which is?
In the federal aspect, because maybe now we've seen what the way the new president is going about it now. We've let our agricultural aspect, because that why the influence is that those people who are supposed to be in the village farming, they came to the city because of the employment. The employment which is not there. What I'm saying, this man is, towing the line now, because he said that he's going to invest a lot in agriculture. Most people driven from the village will sit at home. So influence in the city will be less. And if there is a lucrative in this farming we are talking, a lot of people will go there. And this will solve unemployment in that aspect. And another aspect is that even the government now has to invest. Immediately you stick to something, you have to give them backing.
Financial backing. Well,
yes.
That is the whole idea.
Financial backing to start up. And you monitor it. But what really in this country is that there will be a good program, but to do the follow-up is where we are lacking.
Continuity of programs like that, because sometimes when a program like that begins to run, it runs maybe for 1, 2, 3 years. But maybe when there's a change in leadership, you find that such programs stop. What can be done to ensure continuity? That's
what I'm saying. That's why I'm there. Even in the state government, even in local government, you see somebody with a good idea. Immediately there is a change of baton. You see him abandon that good program. He want to start his own. That culture is what we are going to, maybe we are going to educate our politicians. Either you are in PDP or any other party you may be, sure. If you have a good program, you have to finish that program before embarking on a new program. Because it is us, the pulse of the government. Because I want my name to be written down, so. If we don't do that, we still be on the same page.
Let's look at the skills that we're even training people on, the skills itself. It seems like the focus is on skills that, excuse me, kind of obsolete, or skills that have not been upgraded, skills that would not even give them so much to offer. For instance, we're looking at people being trained on agriculture, and they are being taught how to farm in subsistence level, or people being trained on maybe tailoring, and the kind of equipment or the machines they are given afterwards is not something that they can actually enable them tap into the fashion industry and be very competitive. So the skills that we are training people on, are we reviewing that to ensure that people are trained on up-to-date skills that gives them edge in the labor market or in the industry that they go to?
We've been doing it in our LCD because the last time when that man was a year in office, we have some machines which is being used, which we believe is the old school. By the time he came in, he gave them industrial machines which can cope with the current system. That's what he did. And apart from that, in our schools, we should, by the time, because we are going to do another graduation this year, what we usually do is that we equip them when they are leaving the school. And what we usually do is the instrument we know that is in vogue at that moment, and that is the way you can do it, because when somebody is graduating and you give them machines which is obsolete, cannot cope. But what we usually do is that anytime they are graduating, give them machines that they can be used at that time. So that is believed the way you can give them something to go further.
Okay, let's look at gender disparity, because the female gender seems to be excluded by the reason of strength from learning certain vocations, which could really have helped them secure proper employment. You don't get to see a lot of female mechanics in that context. There are few of them in Nigeria. Your center and what you're doing with the LCDA, are you taking care of the female gender within that particular context?
Even in our institution, even the female are much more, because what we did...
Learning what? Because
yes, that's where I'm going.
Apologies, sir. Right. We seem to confine women to learning stuff like
hairdressing,
and makeup,
fashion
or is
design.
It makeover. Yes. But what about, there are some other aspects that are critical money makers.
Catering.
You don't get to see a lot of women. What is it like at this LCDA?
In our LCDA, we have a catering section, as you said. We have cosmetology and something of such things like that. But the one you said, mechanic, well, how many women are even coming to enroll as a mechanic?
Isn't that because the space to learn is not available? If you have the space, would you
not
have
not that the space is not available. Even recently now, we even cancel our mechanical section because the rate of those who are coming up to say they want a role for mechanic is very few.
Does it have to do with the structure of the place, the way it is structured? Is it
structured
enough to attract young people?
Thank you. Not the structure. There are some aspect which participation is a bit far from what we expected for the enrollment. But what I'm saying is that by the time we have a mechanical section in our LCDA, the enrollment is just about, let's say, 5 or 6. When those people graduated, how will you just have 2 or 1 person, and you can cope, and you are paying salary to the lecturer? Then I'm saying there's some aspect of which our children do not even have a fear for.
Okay, let's talk about post-training engagements for these people. Because I understand the fact that in some arrangements, when you train young people, you engage them. Maybe you send them to the industries to work, and you have a course on whatever.
Some form of internship.
Internship. Do you have that in place, or you just train people, give them certificates, and they are unleashed to the labor market, which is already overcrowded?
What really happens is that even our students here, they do even go for IT. Immediately they are in their school, after they have completed their distance, they went for IT, industrial training, to go and familiarize themselves with other things over there before they have been graduated. But you said one thing again now, it's capital intensive. But I'm telling you, it's an FCD. We have little, but from that little, we are trying to make our dons to the children.
Let's look at the rural areas. Apart from farming, what other skills or what other area should the government be looking at developing to encourage rural dwellers? So that you mentioned that a lot of people in the rural areas want to come to the urban areas. So what should be there to encourage people to stay in the rural areas and be able to generate their own jobs, make a living?
Well, this country, we've been saying it for a long time, because electrification. Because what really happened, even in the city, there is no, but now they've been improving. If there is stable electricity, even in they won't bother coming down to the city. Because when you are there, if you want to do maybe mechanic for Kanisa, they will sit down there and do whatever they want to do. But in the rural area, there is not a lot of power. Even common, we want to grant paper or things like that, which can even benefit those who are, is absence. But when you want them to stay at home, like electricity is there and things like that, at least they will be comfortable sitting at home.
Okay, now let's move to underemployment. It's not just an issue of people not being employed. Some persons are employed just for the sake of leaving home. Some will tell you anything is better than nothing. What can we do about that?
Well, as you said, some people were even giving them, they don't want to do. What I'm saying is that there is a lot of things the government have to do. We have to take the bull by the horns. What I'm saying is that there is some miscreant in the street. I just want to tell you that if you give them an employment, is even 200,000 a month, they won't do it, because they have been bastardized and being this area fathers. Somebody who's idle that cannot do anything, and you see them flourishing the seat, giving them stipend. If we stop that, I think you understand me, most of them will rethink and do the needful. Because I believe there's a lot of job around, but some people don't want to do it because of the stipend they are getting.
What about the place of role modeling? Because if a young man or a young woman sees a man who is into vocational practice, into a particular vocation, and you are making it big. Yeah. We used to have houses built by mechanics and so on and so forth back then. But you don't get to see that. What you get to see is a display of wealth from sources that are not from vocational disciplines, so to speak. What is the role of models, not fashion models, people who are successful in their own vocation? How does this encourage youth participation in your kind of program?
Those who have excelled, most of the time, we brought them. Anytime we are graduating those students.
Okay, to encourage them.
To motivate them.
Those who have excelled in that kind of vocation.
That's what I'm saying, to motivate them. Even what we do outside our environment, we do go to other local government or other states, which we've known the names that is ringing bell. Please, see this. It is through this trade that you excel. You have to be serious. You have to know the children of whom you are. And then that one we too, give them lectures, which will motivate them. Even among the students too, the day we are graduating, the best student, we know how to encourage them, so that those coming behind, we know to be serious with what they are doing is not just something they should play at. That's the way.
Now, there are certain environmental factors that will encourage employment, and they'll even encourage the people to stay in rural areas and reduce the influx of people from rural areas to urban areas. The local government is the closest government to the people. Yes. And at local government, we also have some companies, some industries that are doing well. What is the role, or what is the local government doing to make sure that companies adhere to their corporate social responsibility by identifying projects that will encourage the retainership of citizens in that area, and also encourage people to create employment? Because if you have certain structures that will support the thing you do, you want to stay in that environment. You want to think of a job to do there.
Thank you for that question. Even presently, the Shell Petroleum, even we brought them to our, we have an health center for our market. Recently, they went there on health program for the entire citizen. We are the people with cataract. There is a lot of operation did free. They gave us glasses free. What I'm saying is that that one is their social. They are paying back to the community of what they are having. And we have different, like Mandela's. We are not relenting in this local LCDA. There was a time too, the Mandela's too, we are brought on their knees. By the time I told you, there are some industrial machines that we've been giving to students. They participated. But we know what is happening with employment now. We've been getting to reach to them that at least people within the community ask to be given employment. But we know it's not easy. What is going on in the country now?
Okay, we must say a very big thank you, Mr. Razak Noibi, who is the SSA on Community Affairs and CDC Chairman, Lagos Island East LCDA. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, thank you.
We've been talking unemployment among the youth populace in Nigeria. We'll go on a very short break now. When we're back, we'll look at yet another issue.
Before we go, let's also encourage companies to be alive to corporate responsibility, because even if it's the road leading to the market, leading to where you have commercial activities, you can work on to encourage people to patronize those there. It will help a lot. When there's patronage, more persons want to get on to creating jobs for themselves instead of depending on white-collar job. We'll see you after the break.
Leadership is about influence. Influence is about relationship. And relationship is built on trust. What I've seen in my career and in the work I do, whether at the Columbia Business School, where I'm an entrepreneur in residence, or at a global business school network, or whether at the World Economic Forum, working on the Global Agenda Council for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, is that there's a serious correlation, there's a deep correlation between leadership and trust. Leadership is about influence. Influence is about relationship. And relationship is built on trust. What we see is that in many organizations, there are so many metrics of measuring performance, but very little in measuring trust. What tends to happen is that the leaders tend to push performance at the expense of empathy or compassion, and therefore trust breaks. Have you worked in a company where when the boss is coming, whatever environment that is precedent becomes stoic and everybody is cowed? What has happened? The space does not seem to be safe. And the reason why the space is not safe is that the environment has become toxic. At all costs, you keep pushing, pressurizing, but there are good days in the office and there are bad days in the office. When the staff that consistently does well begins to fall behind, there may be something which is deeper and fundamental that is causing it. Maybe not in the environment. Could be at home. It could be health. And we need to show compassion to coach that staff back to performance. But we have to listen to them. And that is why it's important that we have leaders that not only push performance, but are trustworthy, that create the space for their people to perform. One of the ways you could do it is, instead of always catching somebody doing something bad, catch somebody doing something good. Call him out. Praise it. Celebrate big wins, celebrate small wins. Because a good environment of wins is infectious and it generates other wins. But the environment that is consistently blaming is also infectious and it creates other things that you will find to blame.
It's good to have you back with us today on Social Feeds this Tuesday. As usual, we'll explore the trends in business making waves across social media. My name is Chilotal Tulu.
And I'm Alex Oteri. How are you doing this morning, Chilotal?
I'm all right. I'm doing great.
All right. So today I'm excited to be here, and we're going to give you the updates on what's happening, what's buzzing in the business realm on social media.
Absolutely. And in line with that, we have created 2 topics that are trending at the moment.
All right. So the topics that are trending at this time are Toby Amosun and minimum wage.
All right. Let's start off with minimum wage. What are we about to experience a significant rise in the minimum wage? Let's find out some updates on the recent decisions made by the Nigerian Senate. Now, lawmakers approved a significant amount of 500 billion naira as palliatives to help mitigate the impact of fuel subsidy removal on the Nigerian population. Now, Senate spokesperson Adeyemi Adaramodu stated that while this allocation is a step in the right direction, it may not be sufficient, considering the various aspects that need to be addressed. Now, the minimum wage in Nigeria may see a significant increase. Our sources have revealed that the federal government is considering raising it to a substantial 200,000 naira per month. Yeah, exactly. A demand put forward by the labor unions. Now, however, state governors are urging caution. And a technical working group led by Anambra State's Governor Charles Soludo has been formed to resolve the complex issues surrounding this matter. Now, the Salaries, Income and Wages Commission recently presented a plan at the National Economic Council meeting, that is the NEC meeting, outlining how the federal government can meet the 200,000 naira minimum wage demand. Now, notably, President Mohamed Ahmed Tinubu is in favor of this increase, emphasizing his commitment to delivering on his campaign promises. Now, remember, during his campaign, he said, in Nigeria, I shall have the honor and privilege to lead from May 29. Workers will have more than a minimum wage. You will have a living wage to have a decent life and provide for your families. Wow.
These are the developments that we're looking forward to, highlighting the ongoing negotiations between the government and the labor union. While the prospect of a high minimum wage is promising, it remains to be seen how various stakeholders will reach a consensus while we continue to monitor the progress of this discussion and also keep you informed. All right, so let's get some comments and get to hear what you think about that. Mr. Incredible says, interestingly, when it came to approving billions for themselves, both the NAS and the government acted swiftly and without any sign of hesitation. The funds were approved within a few hours without any need for indications. Well, we don't see any indication. We don't want to see any indication here. We simply want it to be declared now, just like they did for subsidy removal and last Laji's money. What do you think about that, Luther?
Now, let's, I mean, talking about this, we don't really know how long this is going to happen. The money,
or when it's going to happen.
When it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But taking it from what it is now to 200,000 naira, I think it's a stretch.
It's a long stretch. I mean, we're doing 30,000 naira right now, and taking it to 200,000 would have a grave implication in the economy, the way things are being sold in the market, the service and goods, the prices of goods and services are definitely going to skyrocket.
I think there's going to be a naira devaluation if there's that much money in circulation.
Let's see how that goes.
This would mean that workers can now get, like the minimum workers can get now will be 200,000 naira.
Man, some workers will be looking at getting a Lamborghini. All right, Daniel Regal said Nigeria government barely pays salary, reportedly wants to increase minimum wage to 200K. Wow, what a joke. It wouldn't make sense because that will lead to an increase of the cost of goods and services. This may not affect government salary earners, but same can't be said for other Nigerians. And that's very true because salary earners will definitely be getting these funds. But what about people that don't earn in the government sector, the private investors, the private business person? How's it going to be for that person?
Because when you say you want to increase the minimum wage to 200K, I think that would only be for the government workers. So we that are private people, will bosses be able to pay 200K to people working like normal salary and earning people probably 100K,
that's some food for thoughts for the government, because that's definitely going to affect the economy in some way. Stephen Onunwa said the real issue here is if the employers can pay. That is very key. So, I mean, if the government can do that, can private business owner do that? Our Korean of Igbo land said, increasing minimum salary is to 200K is not my problem. My problem is how traders and business people will hike the price of every goods and just because federal government increase minimum salary. This rate at which goods and services will skyrocket will make 200K useless. I totally agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the typical traders in the markets, when they hear that there's a possibility that you're paid 200K and above, everything is going to increase.
They don't increase minimum wage. They don't increase minimum wage. So now pepper is 500 naira
for like 2 piece.
It's going to be a funny scenario, but let's just see how it goes. Prince of Ife says, make them decrease rep, senators and ministers, governors, presidents' salary and increase minimum wage. That's how we can only afford to pay 200K without owing anybody's salaries. I'm thinking it makes everything cost more in the market and Naira won't get value again. That's true.
Well, if you're wondering where to get that money from, this person actually made a very valid point. And not to say that the salaries of these people should be reduced, but we talked about the UK yesterday for their visa application fee was increased. So you see, there are other places that revenue can be gotten as opposed to borrowing money to pay.
You know, thinking about that, recently the tours that have been happening, musical tours have been happening across the world, has also been spreading lots of gains that local communities are making great money from that, just like Taylor Swift's own Davido right now has started his concert July 7, and that is actually making rounds of figures in different local areas. And I think the government should actually look towards that, because that's another place that we can fetch our revenue from. The other day, Sporting Lagos and Remo Stars had a match right here at Mobojaji Johnson Arena. I mean, tons of the crowd was really much, and if government can actually look into sporting also as a point of revenue, it's going to really make a lot of sense to get money from there.
When you say sporting as a point of revenue, it would obviously mean ticket sales.
Ticket sales.
But then the typical ticket sales. Do you think a typical Nigerian can afford to get a ticket to see?
You'll be so surprised that it's at 200 naira. For a regular, and VIP is 2,000 naira. That's fair enough. Wow. And aside that, there are other economic activities going on around the area. You have people selling, you have other trade activities going on. So it's just a whole market in its own way. But let's move to the next trend.
All right, over to the last trend. We have Tobi Amusan today. The world record holder, Tobi Amusan, on Sunday won the 100-meter women's hurdle at the 2023 Celestia Diamond League. The Nigerian only caught American Kendra Harrison on the line in a thrilling race to set a meeting record with 12.34 seconds. Now, speaking on the milestone, Amusan said, it was not easy for me with injuries in my hamstring and my knee, but I trusted in my coach and my work. It's all about the process. I just won this in smooth style. I was just running. Honestly, I had no idea that I won when I crossed the finish line. That is amazing. You know,
very fantastic.
It's typically those very brilliant people that they will tell you that they didn't really read.
I didn't really know. I didn't really read.
You know, let's remember that she won the 100-meter hurdles at the Stockholm Diamond League with a time of 12.25 seconds just 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's amazing. She keeps beating her own record.
Well, that's something that you can talk about the Nigerian spirit. We're always there to fight. We have that lion in us. I mean, exactly. I was watching the interview the other day with this heavyweight champion, the kickboxing heavyweight champion. He was saying that the real thing about Nigerians is our lion fighting spirit, and I think that's something she got right there.
Amazing. Now let's head over to the comment section to see what your thoughts are.
Uncle Jay says, congratulations to the champion. Actually, she equaled the MR 12.34 seconds set by J. Camacho Queen in August 2022, and the Weeks Dawn says looking forward to her potential battle with Jasmine Camacho Queen at the next year's Olympic. I think she will try her luck at the 100-meter sprint. She should easily run up sub 11. And Mr. KIS says, keep making Nigeria proud. You deserve all the accolades and flowers. These are the news that gladdens my heart. Also gladdens my heart, right? Okay. All right, Mike Ben said, congratulations, Toby. Winning is ingrained in the DNA of Nigerians, and you have shown you're a true Nigerian spirit. Well done. Okay, that's Yari Amin says, what an incredible journey for Toby Amusu in the women's 100 meters hurdles, setting a new Mets record at the Celestia Diamond League with a blazing time of 12.34 seconds is a testament of her unwavering dedication to talent.
You know, it's really nice that there are Nigerians that are making us proud, you know?
Yeah, in all sphere, I think when it comes to the gift and the talents of Nigerians, we do have it. I mean, look at me.
Well, well, I mean, I wouldn't. It's not a lie. You know,
yeah,
it's not a lie. But yeah, that concludes today's segment of social media feeds. We hope you found these topics quite interesting and also informative and enlightening.
That's true. All right, so we'll catch you guys on the next episode of social media feeds. Until then, keep scrolling, keep posting, and keep sharing. Stay tuned for more exciting content coming your way.
Don't forget to follow us across our social media platforms. My name is Chilota Utilu.
And I'm Alex Oteri. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to the show. It's still early exchange on Soup News. Thank you, Alex and Lotta, for the social feed there. And one point of interest there is the new record set by Tobi Amusan. I keep wondering how she's able to cover a lot of distances in seconds, 12 or something seconds.
It's speed.
To imagine that I'm a man. What?
It's not about being a man.
Okay.
For an athlete, the training that we do to ensure that.
After all, what a woman can do, a man should be able to do better. That's what they say, isn't this?
No. You just reversed it. So what a man can do.
A woman can do better. Okay.
She's a better woman.
Let's say congratulations. Okay, we're looking at grassroots sports development in Nigeria. We know that at least we can point to her as a homegrown talent, and there are many like that who probably trace their history, their success to the homegrown facilities. What's your take on that?
Yes, I think that's why home sports or sporting centers located in the locality is something that should be encouraged, because if you don't have facilities like that, sporting talent like Tobi Amusan and others will be very hard, because children by default just take to such facilities and then they want to just play around. From playing, you have scouts around there, you have people around there who could discover, oh, this person is talented in this area. Football is one sport that even children don't even wait, or young people don't wait for the facility to be there. They
just
go
play
as
it
far
anyway.
as closing the entrance of the street
yes,
to just make sure they turn the street to a football field.
Okay, we're not looking at this alone. It's just not banter between you and I. You can't be talking sports for real. I don't. Oh, okay. We have. Okay, don't worry. Let's not go there. What a woman can do, a man can do better. I still want to insist. Okay, we have with us Sam Olowuje, who is a director of policy and research and development at Femi Walsh Limited. Of course, they are the owners of Soup News and Walsh Radio. Sam, welcome to the show today.
My pleasure to be here, as always.
Whose side are you? What a man can do, a woman can do better on the other side.
Everybody can do things better. Thank you.
That's a diplomatic answer. You can say, let me use the floor, you can start.
Okay, yes. Now, looking at grassroots sports development, in Nigeria, for quite a while, attention has been on national levels for almost every sport. We don't get to see much of grassroots sports activity. Why is that?
No, I don't think that is absolutely correct. The national policy for sport industry actually emphasize grassroots sport development, and the immediate past minister for sport, Sunday Dare, actually focused some of his energy in grassroots sport development. So it's part of the national policy. Maybe the focus and awareness on that aspect of the national policy on sport industry is not really in the public domain, but specifically there's an aspect of the national policy on sport industry that focuses on grassroots sport development.
If we yield the floor to you on that, yes, because there are still inter-house sport competitions at secondary and primary school levels, but there is this issue of not being able to transition from being a local player, a local star, into the big league, so to speak. Yes, there are so many local talents that we will get to see. Even when you go and watch a football match in your neighborhood, you see a lot of local talents that will probably look promising on the field of play, and this is beyond football, essentially. Why is there this slow transition from being a local champion into global relevance? Because we know it's a very competitive field.
I think the challenge from a policy perspective is that the local government and the state government are not really focusing on grassroots sports development. So the challenge, how do we move from that level into the national level, then into international level? So on that background, we can say that we need to improve on the interface between the local government, the state government, and the federal government. But you have the National Sport Festival, which addresses those areas that you just highlighted a while ago.
Okay. So looking again at the grassroots level, coaches, now for any sports person or for any athletes to be good, the athlete will need to have a very good coach. At the grassroots level, do you think we have enough good hands, not just to support the talents, but to coach the talents to the extent that they can now move upwards, like IOSAC, move upwards to national level, and even begin to participate in international tournaments?
I think at the individual level, you have a lot of investors who has invested some money in creating what we call sport academy across various local government to upscale the talents of youths at the grassroots level. That's a welcome development. You equally have some state government that have invested in creating colleges of that dwell essentially on sport development with a view to providing acceleration in terms of talent hunt in the area of sport. I think once we're able to harness these strategies, we'll be able to upscale the youths and get people from the grassroots that will come from local government to state, from state to national, from national to international. So I think those opportunities are there. So we just need to focus and encourage those people that have invested in those areas in terms of sport development.
Okay, sports is big business, but there seems to be maybe not a written consensus here that we see it more as recreation in these parts of the world. It is amazing to know that the EPL we're watching is a local league in England. Yeah, there was a time in this country when we had our own days of glory on the local level, the IICC of those days and so on and so forth, when you see fathers and mothers go out to the stadium to watch the local league. But we have since left that. Today, an average Nigerian football enthusiast can tell you every club in Europe and name all the players, even their transfer fees. Ask him the latest player to be signed on by IICC, for instance, and we're blank. So the argument is that we have not, as a country, taken sports as a business. It is still being seen as a form of recreation. What's your take on that, Sam?
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. I think we need to upscale local sport activities so that, but again, there's another issue. You have intergenerational issue in terms of this generation focuses more on things from the West, and they focus more on that. But I think the government have a responsibility in trying to create awareness and how we can develop the local leagues to the level where we can focus, advertise those leagues, and see how we can make money from those areas.
Early development of sports talent is best because you get to identify them at the stage, and for those who need special trainings, it's easier for them to adapt. But we seem not to have actually keyed into that aspect. For instance, gymnastics, you find that people begin to enroll into that sport at an age maybe 12 and even later, compared to other nations where even from age 5, 6, the talents are spotted or the training has commenced. So how do we organize sports in Nigeria that we can properly harness talents?
I think the various national sport festivals need to upscale in terms of the talent that are spotted during those festivals. We have the National University Games. You have inter-house sport from schools. These are areas where talent, once they are identified, they can upscale them into a national level where the country can benefit from those talents. So we need to commercialize sport more so that we can generally benefit from it as a country. The government, on the one hand, has a role to play, then individual investors have a role to play in terms of pushing that sport development agenda.
Okay, let's look at parenting, because the first learning center for children is the home front. Mm-hmm. There was a time in this country when if you fail to do your academics properly and you are playing football, you will get a lot of bashing and beating and lashing from home. You are just playing football, your mates are reading. But now the story is different. We also read that, is it Martina Hingis, whose mom gave her the first racket at the age of 4, and I'm not very sure of the exact figures now. What roles do parents have to play in promoting grassroots development of sports in Nigeria? We see sports stars, we see children showing interest in certain sports, but they're not doing so well in academics. And I am alarmed as a parent because you are meant to be in school at that age. What about that?
No, I think the narrative has changed.
Has it?
Yes, slightly, because I read some parents encouraging their children to go into sports. Why not undermining the academic activity? I think there's a balance in recent time, and that will manifest soon.
Those kind of facilities for sports development, Lagos State, we must give it to Lagos State, is doing a lot in terms of providing the facility for sports development. But looking generally at Nigeria, investing in the facility and maintaining the facility, because some were provided or some are built, but over time you find that they are not in use and becomes a hideout for miscreants in society, and parents would not even want their children to go there because they do not want some negative influence on their children. How can we correct that?
I think the facilities are there, like we mentioned earlier. What is important is for local government, sub-national level government, and the national government to focus on sport development so that we can put these facilities into use. And once these talents are developed, then we have some economic benefits that are derivable from that sector of the economy.
Okay, let's come into our own constituency, the role of media in promoting grassroots development. And I know that this is multifaceted for real, but let's look at the coverage we give to local competitions. We know how broadcast houses struggle for rights to transmit EPL in England. We don't see that kind of scramble here in Nigeria for our local leagues. Is it a matter of there won't be enough viewership for them, or are we intentionally guilty of apathy to the issue of grassroots development? And this concerns all of us, but you are the one we're questioning now. So
yeah, I don't really think so. There are other sister stations that have supported grassroots sport development, or for commercial purposes, we will not be able to mention names. There are media houses that are focused on so I think what is important is that what is the volume of investment that people make into the local league so that they can translate into economic benefits. Those are the questions that we should be asking at this moment. Therefore, we encourage the new administration to rejig the national sport policy so that people can benefit more and we can focus on sport development. Even sport itself is an international relation tool that the government can use to focus attention on the country.
Still looking at the business side of sports, private partnership with the government on this to make it attractive, not just for the athlete themselves, but for Nigerians, so that people can just say, I want to watch a local match, I want to watch a local sports competition, and it's looking attractive, you're finding the franchise that gives it the beauty and everything. How do we achieve that?
No, I think PPP arrangement has been encouraged, private-public partnership. We strengthened that industry. It will upscale the talent and equally upscale the economic benefits therefrom. Therefore, I think we should focus on the PPP arrangement to sustain that industry.
Okay, I like the talk of PPP arrangement. Nigerian investors are showing interest in buying clubs overseas. Is that kind of enthusiasm here also? I mean, in our local league, because there are, let's not just even try to start mentioning clubs for commercial reasons, but we know that Nigerians are showing serious interest in purchasing EPL clubs. They are not showing that much enthusiasm. Is it that it is less rewarding to do that here, or what?
No, I think what we should do as a collective is to improve on the operating environment of sporting activities so that they become lucrative for investors to buy into those businesses. People will want to put their money where they can make more money. So I think it's essentially from a business perspective that people are putting their money elsewhere. So if we upscale, like I mentioned earlier, our local sporting activities, I'm sure investors will like to put some money there, and that will benefit the country in general.
Still on reward system, school sports competition. Now, beyond inter-house sports, where it is just one, maybe group of people in a particular house competing against the other, and at the end of the day, you say you've won a cup, is within the school. So how do we make it something that goes into school, not just intra-school, and then translate it into redevelopment where people who are identified in schools competition to be good have a way of moving to mainstream competition in that particular sport at the state level and then at the national level?
I think you have pockets of those kind of inter-school, interstate, whatever name you call them. They are there. I think we should focus more attention on how we can grow those talent and feed them into the national arena so that they become very beneficial and they act as incentive to other peoples in that area. So I think that is a win-win situation, and we need to encourage more people. Schools are already doing that. Some local governments are doing that. Some investors are supporting some local grassroots sport development. How do we harness this for economic benefit that will benefit the country? I think those are the challenge, and we should focus on that. And we use this opportunity to tell investors that we should develop local talent so that we can expand the scope of the economy through sporting activity, and we can pull the youths, particularly from the grassroots, away from some criminal activities when they find good things that they can find their hand to do. And again, on the long run, it is beneficial to them at the individual level and at the local government level and at the country at large.
Okay, if you look at the national policy on sports that we have, would you say it's a perfect policy? If not, what more do we need to rejig to make it work?
I think the national policy is robust enough. The challenge essentially are the operators of those policies. So the policy document is good. So it has to do with the execution and the interests of those who are in power at a particular point in time. So this is a new administration. So we use this opportunity to ask the current regime to see how the national policy on sport can be reviewed to the effect that we can benefit from it, and we can use that to grow the economy as well.
Mm. Now, sport is connected to fitness. Now, in this time and age where a lot of persons live sedentary lifestyle, and the only opportunity they have for keeping fit is to make use of gyms, which is now a very big business. Are we looking, or should we be looking at that side to not just for, to identify talent, not just to groom them so they can compete, but also providing facilities for people to keep fit and have a fit society, that area of sports?
I think is okay when you want to look at it from the perspective of work-life balance. Those gyms are very important. The government equally have investments in gyms. It's just that a lot of people are not interested in sport activities. So if you go to the National Stadium, Surulere, you have some of those indoor facilities. But I think I would like to propose a balance between private initiative and government initiative in terms of providing gym activity to sustain work-life balance for a healthy society and for a healthy nation.
Right. Let's just wrap with that question because we have run out of time. Sam Olowuje, thank you for coming. He is the Director of Policy Research and Development for Femi Walsh Limited. Thank you for being with us. And Blessing, thank you for sitting by me all through the show. I think I should give you that credit. My name is Ayo Jimmy.
Erican, thank you enough for having stayed tuned all the way from 7 a.m. till this time. Tomorrow is another day. Don't forget the time at 7 a.m. West African time. And thanks to your producer, Bumido, and all those in the technical crew. We appreciate your effort in making today's show a success. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.